Hey guys, it's Yuta. So, apparently, Japanese people don't understand sarcasm. It must be true because many Japanese experts online share this knowledge based on their solid research and an exceptional understanding of Japanese culture. But then I asked myself, is it really true that Japanese people don't use sarcasm? So I collected examples of sarcastic comments both in fiction and real life because I didn't have anything better to do and I watch anime for research purposes. Take a look at this clip.
6月18日、何の日か知ってる？
いいよ。
由比ヶ浜さんの誕生日よ。多分。アドレスに0618って入っていたから。
直接確認したことはないんだな。さすがのコミュニケーション能力。
さすがのコミュニケーション能力。Great communication skills as expected. So the girl didn't have the kind of communication skills to ask her friend when her birthday is. So he said, great communication skills. This line works perfectly in English too. Another example from the same anime, 俺がいる。
ゆいさんとかゆきのさんとかは？
由比ヶ浜はうちの教室にいると思うぞ。
お兄ちゃんはなんで教室にいないの？居場所がないの？
さまよえる孤高の魂はよりどころを必要としねえんだよ。
あーかっこいい。
Ah, かっこいい. You're so cool. Her brother made a cheesy comment, so she said, ah, かっこいい, sarcastically. This one also works well in English too. Here's another example from another anime, このすば。
これは我が教団を危険視した魔王軍が真っ向勝負では勝てないと踏んで温泉という大切な財源を奪いに来たのよ。
そうなんだ、すごいね。
信じてよ。まあ、
そうなんだ、すごいね。Really? That's amazing. Here, the guy wasn't taking her seriously, so he dismissed her comment casually by saying, すごいね, amazing. This guy, Kazuma, actually makes a lot of sarcastic comments in this series. But enough of anime. I will show you some real-life examples. 言ってる言葉かっこいい. The words he's saying are cool. Monotone voice. So he specifically added monotone voice to clarify that it's a sarcastic comment because everybody on the internet gets sarcasm. I also found this tweet criticizing people who get offended easily. Don't use Kizuna Ai for NHK's programs. Don't use moe anime characters for local events. Don't use Japan's self-defense forces vehicles for children's picture books. Those who constantly complain must have such a fun, fulfilling life. This type of comment is actually pretty common in Japanese. So we can easily find sarcastic comments both in fiction and real life. So why do so many people think that Japanese people don't use sarcasm? I have a couple of theories. First, when you make sarcastic comments in English, your Japanese friends might not get it, not because they don't understand sarcasm, but because they simply don't speak English enough. Understanding something like sarcasm in a foreign language takes much more than just a surface-level understanding, because what you say literally doesn't mean what you really mean. Even though your Japanese friends can understand you when you're speaking in a straightforward way, understanding sarcasm takes much more than that. And in a fast-paced conversation, it might not be easy. I remember watching the popular show Friends when I was trying to improve my listening skills. And I noticed I often didn't understand Chandler because he makes a lot of sarcastic comments.
But Bambi is a cartoon.
You didn't cry when Bambi's mother died?
Yes, it was very sad when the guy stopped drawing the deer.
Hi.
Hi.
What's wrong, buddy?
Someone at work ate my sandwich.
Well, what did the police say?
These lines are by no means difficult for English speakers, but for someone who is still learning English, it can be a bit tricky because what he says literally is different from what he really means, and I don't think these lines translate well into Japanese. But I could follow other characters pretty well because they were more straightforward. So if you talked to me back then, you would probably think that my English was pretty decent and you would probably think I could also understand somebody like Chandler. But it's quite difficult to know how much they understand a foreign language. They don't have to understand you 100% to understand the gist of what you're saying. So it's very easy to overestimate somebody's English skills, especially if you are a native speaker. This can also happen to you when you say something to a Japanese person, and they think your Japanese is amazing and they start speaking very fast Japanese because they think you understand. So it can happen. Another possible reason why people think Japanese people don't understand sarcasm is that they try to make sarcastic comments in Japanese when it doesn't really work in Japanese. Just like the examples of Friends, many sarcastic comments in English don't quite translate well into Japanese. For example, if somebody ruins your day, you can say, "Great, thanks a lot," in English. But I don't think this would work in Japanese. But let's say you are a teacher and you see students who are just chatting when they're supposed to be studying. You can say, "Oh, it seems like you are studying really hard." This can work in Japanese. But if you're not familiar with Japanese culture, it might be hard to tell when you can make sarcastic comments and how you can do it. I've actually come across some English speakers try to make sarcastic comments in Japanese in an English way, and it didn't work. But they might have thought that the reason why it didn't work was because Japanese people don't understand sarcasm and not because they were doing it wrong. Such smart people. So that also happens. Having said that, I do think English speakers make sarcastic comments much more often than Japanese speakers. And that also applies to me because when I speak English, I make sarcastic comments all the time, but when I speak Japanese, I hardly ever do. And I think there's many reasons for this, but one of the reasons I can think of is that maybe sarcastic comments might come across a little more harsh in Japanese. This can explain why sarcasm is relatively more common in fiction because in fiction, characters tend to speak in an exaggerated way to create drama. This can also explain why people might be making more sarcastic comments on social media because on social media, people tend to be a little harsher than in real life. But it's just my theory. But Japanese people do use sarcasm and they can understand if you do it correctly. But if you want to make sarcastic comments in Japanese, you need to learn Japanese first. So if you want to learn Japanese with me, I can teach you the kind of Japanese the real-life Japanese people today actually speak, which can be different from the kind of Japanese that textbooks teach you because it can be unnatural and old-fashioned. So click the link and subscribe to my email group, Japanese with Yuta. Alright, see you guys soon. Ciao, ciao!